Welcome, everyone. I've just opened up the doors, so we're having people jump in. You are in the right place. This is all about screen sharing. My name is Jennifer. I am the growth marketing manager here at Rise Vision. On the call with us today, we have Blake, who is one of our amazing account executives. And with the white background, that's Dawood. He's here to answer to any technical questions. Any of you technical people who want to think up anything to try and stump him, you can do that. If you want, you can drop any questions in the chat. We will be answering them as we go through, but we will also have a dedicated Q&A time at the end. All right, so we are all here to talk about screen sharing. It's going to be an informal agenda. We're going to go through a product demo. So this is brand new. We're really excited about it and hope that you're going to be excited about it too. We're going to go through a couple of different use cases. Historically, Rise Vision has really been K-12 focused, but we are also shifting and helping out our corporate customers as well. So we're going to have two use cases, one for corporate, one for K-12. And then we are going to have that Q&A session where you can answer any or ask any questions, and we'll go through them as well. This will be recorded. It will be sent out, so you don't have to worry about writing notes or anything like that. You can watch it at your leisure as well, or share it with your colleagues or anything like that. And so, Blake, I'm going to hand it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why screen sharing and how this is something that's going to be really helpful for all these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. We believe screen sharing is going to increase your collaboration in your spaces, whether it be a meeting room or a classroom. It's going to be or it is a very easy feature to implement on your Rise Vision account. It's cost effective, and it's going to do things like free teachers from the front of the classroom. So they're no longer going to have to be tethered to a screen via an HDMI cord. And it's going to be really easy for guest speakers or substitute teachers to connect, because you don't have to be part of a special network to get connected to Rise Vision. You can be connected to any network. You don't have to have a special plugin for any browsers or any software installed on your computer. It's really a stunningly easy way to share your screen to your existing displays. So we're going to show you how to do that today.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Blake, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to start sharing yours, and everyone, we are going to jump into the demo of screen sharing.
All right. Thank you again. Can you see my screen, Jennifer, for the Rise Vision? Okay. So for you Rise Vision veterans out there, you all know where I'm at. I'm at the presentations menu. So for once, we're actually not going to do work in presentations. We're going to go straight to the displays tab, third tab over. As you can see, I have a few different types of media players and devices set up in my account. Right now, I'm going to be working with my Rise Vision media player, which is a hardware as a service device that we provide. And in order to enable screen sharing, I'm going to go to displays. I'm going to select the display that I want to enable it on. And anything from the list except for Apple TV functionality is available later. And then I'm going to go to the brand new screen sharing tab here. We've revamped this user experience, and screen sharing is the third tab over. In order to enable it, it's really simple. Just click the button for enabling screen share. Once I do that, you're going to see two different modes, standard mode and moderator mode. Both modes are interchangeable. You can use either, but you can't use them together simultaneously. To choose the mode, it really depends on the situation. So the standard mode is really ideal for conference rooms or meetings where you need minimal control. If you select this one, you can also add a PIN confirmation. That'll prevent accidental sharing to the wrong display. And then we have moderator mode. And you can see when I select moderator mode, standard mode is disabled. This is recommended for any settings that require some control, such as like a classroom. And I will demonstrate how this works, but moderator mode in a nutshell would allow a teacher in a classroom to determine which of the students are sharing to the screen at any given time. I'm going to go into standard mode now and then click save. Now, within just a couple of seconds, my screen behind me is going to refresh, and I'm going to get a join code at the bottom right of the screen. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm actually going to go do the same thing to my other displays. And I can do this by checking the box and then going to actions and enabling screen sharing here. All right, I don't know if you all can see this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kind of show you behind me at the bottom right of my screen. There's a little message banner, not too intrusive. It just covers my logo a little bit. It says risevision.com/join and then allows me to input a code. So I'm going to share my screen again and go to risevision.com/join. And when I say it's simple, it really is simple. All I have to do is input this code and my name and click start sharing. Then I decide which screen I'm going to share. I'm sharing my display screen, so that's what's behind me here. As I navigate around Rise Vision, I can almost use it as a second display because there's virtually no latency here. It works very effectively and very well. And when I'm done sharing or I want to pause sharing, I can just go back to this screen and say pause, and it goes to a paused menu on my screen, says the screen has been paused. To continue sharing, you need to click resume. Maybe you have some sensitive data or confidential data that you don't want to share. When you're ready to begin sharing again, all you have to do is click resume, and it goes back to the same tab that I was on previously. Now, anywhere that I am while sharing is active, I can click stop sharing. And then I can go to exit session in order to end this screencasting session. And when I do that, my Rise Vision display will go back to the normal digital signage with the join code again at the bottom. I'm going to show you really quickly moderator mode now. So I'm going to go back to that same Rise Vision media player and then go to screen sharing. And I'm going to change this from standard mode to moderator mode and click save. Now you'll notice when I do that, when the screen refreshes in a few seconds, that join banner will actually go away. This is to prevent just anyone from sharing to my screen, again, in that classroom situation or a situation where you want to be able to say who is going to be sharing where. We've added this brand new tab up next to displays called Screen Share. And if I click that tab, it's going to show me the moderated mode for displays. If I have more than one display set up for moderator mode, they are all going to show here in this list. And I just select the one that I want to utilize here. So as you can see, you can join the room here by going to risevision.com/join and putting that HZK9 code in along with your name. And as you join, I will be able to click share and allow you to share your screens. This is really great for again, situations like classrooms or conference presentations, to allow everyone in a room to really share content from their displays, but get the approval first. I went over bulk activation. If I go back here, I can actually do a number of things with bulk activations. I'm just going to select all of them except for Apple TV, because again, Apple TV isn't supported quite yet, and click screen sharing. I can set up moderator mode here, or I can set up standard mode with a pin, or I can disable all of the screen sharing ability for all of my displays if I want to take it down for the day. You don't have to select all of them. You can select just a segment of your displays to enable screen sharing on. So if I click standard mode and click save, I'm going to get a batch process here that says it's enabled. And I've enabled it on the two Rise Vision products that I wanted it on. As far as other features, we do have a lot coming. I showed you the pause and resume. We do have audio sharing coming in a future update, as well as mobile device sharing, iOS and Android, via native apps, and those will be available by the end of this month. Do we have any questions on how to initiate screen sharing?
Blake, there are a whole bunch of questions in the chat.
Okay.
Basically, as soon as you started, they started rolling in. So the biggest
Great.
one that I've seen is, how do we get this enabled? So I just dropped in the chat for, who was that? To Tim, but this applies to everybody. So everybody can use screen sharing on their current subscription until November. And if you want screen sharing, you just need to email your CSM. So that'd be Alex or Rob, and they will get your screen sharing enabled. So that's help at risevision.com and they can get that going. And that's going to be, so screen sharing is going to be available for everybody to test out until November. But let me go back and let's go through a couple of these questions. We do have a little bit more content to go through, so we're not going to necessarily answer them all right now, but we will answer them before the end of the event. Veronica, we will come back to your question at the end. We are going to talk about screen sharing and which subscription it's available in. Like I said, though, everybody can use it until November, so that's going to be great. Okay, first question for you, Blake, from Matt. Can you cast to multiple TVs without needing a PIN code?
So not at this time. That's actually a great question for Dawood. I did check in on this. I don't think right now we can cast multiple displays at the same time, but Dawood, maybe you can have some further insight on that.
Correct. At the moment, we can only cast to one display at once.
But it is on the roadmap. Is that correct, Dawood?
It is being considered for future improvement, yeah.
All right, perfect. And then Mishka asked, does this work with Windows, Mac, Chrome, iOS, and Android?
Yes, Android is coming at the end of the month. You'll need the native app that you'll install to your Android or iOS device. But any desktop, Windows, Linux, Chrome, Mac OS will be supported or
And
is
Matt, I think,
supported already.
perfect, yeah. Matt, so I think Blake talked about this, the audio. So that's going to be coming soon. Is that correct? We're going to have the ability to cast with audio?
Correct. We should have the audio available, I would say, towards the end of November.
Perfect. So you can share all your favorite YouTube videos or safety videos, maybe. And then this is a good question, Zach. Any testing while processing video on screen sharing? So Blake, maybe you can share a little bit about using screen sharing when you're sharing a video and if there's any issues with that.
Yeah, so we have done some testing so far. It is hit or miss depending on what you're casting from and what device you're casting to, but there are scheduled improvements on that as well, coming to support video sharing from things like Tube TV. Basically, any video that would play in a web browser, you can share to your screen, but depending on what devices you're sharing to, it's going to vary as far as your experience.
Yeah, okay. So speaking about device, Ian is asking, is there a recommended hardware for screen sharing? So at their school, they use, or at their organization, they use Chrome boxes and it works great. But screen share, it's obviously quite a demanding process to run on a media player. So what's our recommendation for hardware?
Our recommendation for hardware is our default media player, which is our hardware as a service Rise Vision media player, or the R series, which comes in 43 and 55 inch. But we have a great Help Center article that kind of gives you some guidelines on base specs of what you're looking for as far as a media player. And any of our recommendations as far as Windows, Linux, Chrome, and Android should suffice for screen sharing.
All right, let's do a couple more questions and then we'll continue with the rest of our content. So Brandon wants to know, when will this be out of beta status?
I would keep an eye out for, let's say, early December. That's when we plan to have a full release, and it'll be part of the subscription and out of beta, of course.
And what about Apple TV? What about screen sharing for Apple TV?
Apple TV is one of those scenarios that's a bit tricky for us right now. So it is a bit further out. Still something we're considering and still something we are working towards, but no timeline yet.
Okay, and then sorry, one last question before we move on. This is a great question from Bryce. Will cap alerts still override screen sharing?
Yes.
There, you heard it here. Okay, we're going to come back to the rest of the questions. I'm going to just jump back into our presentation because we do have a little bit more content. So everybody just give me 1 second to get back sharing. So I do want to talk about a couple of use cases for screen sharing. So obviously we're really supportive of K-12 and that's been our main audience for the last number of years, but we are also able to be used in industrial or corporate settings. So a couple different use cases for using this product. It's besides just teaching, not just teaching, I mean, teaching and getting untethered from the front of the classroom You could also use screen sharing for something like a team workshop. So in this scenario, a marketing team is brainstorming ideas for a new campaign. Each member is expected to contribute their ideas through a presentation, and then the goal is to work together to refine the strategy. In this case, if you're using screen sharing, the meeting facilitator, whoever that is, would start the session and they could be sharing a brainstorming board or an online whiteboard, that kind of thing. Maybe some of your team members are remote, who knows, or everybody's in the conference. And then as you're going through the process, team members can take turns sharing their screens to showcase their ideas. Using that specific or share specific window option with screen sharing, you can keep your focus on the presentation and not all of the other tabs that you have going. If you're like me, I have 100 tabs open. I don't want everybody to necessarily see my 100 tabs open. So you can keep it to just that specific slide or specific window. And then as everything is refined, ideas are coming, everybody's working together, the facilitator can take back control and update that whiteboard that they were sharing in the beginning in real time. So this is one way to use it. If you're using standard mode, you're going to have efficient switching between the presenters to keep the session interactive and productive. And it also really facilitates that collaborative brainstorming, which is so important for in the workplace. All right, and we do have a second scenario. So in the classroom, maybe you want to use a moderator mode in the classroom. We hear all the time about students trying to take over the displays and showcase their own content. It's never going to end, and screen sharing is just one of those things we're going to have to keep students out. So moderator mode is great for that. A teacher is conducting a class for a group of students. The goal is to teach a new math concept or science concept, and then it's followed by student-led problem-solving exercises. Typical day in the classroom. The teacher can use moderated mode to start the session and share the lesson. And then after presenting, the teacher can allow the students to take control one at a time to share what's on their screens. Maybe they're each doing an example of the problem, and they're going to present how they do that. The teacher is able to moderate or monitor each of the students' screen sharing sessions, offer feedback, guidance. If the student is struggling or having issues, the teacher can pause their sharing to provide further explanation, maybe put up another presentation, anything like that. And then at the end of the session, when students aren't sharing anymore, the teacher can take back control and basically kick all the students out of that session. Nobody can share anymore without the teachers or the moderators consent. So moderator mode ensures that the learning environment or the workplace environment is kept organized, and students are only sharing when they're permitted to. So they can't maliciously take over the screen. The teacher can easily pause and resume student sharing to guide them, and students are actively participating, which is really great for enhancing engagement and learning. So a couple of different scenarios for using screen sharing. I think it's going to be a really big game changer for a lot of schools and a lot of organizations. A couple of best practices for using screen sharing. So obviously this tool really just sets you up to enhance collaboration and maximize that. So Blake went over this, but choosing the right mode. So there's the two modes that we talked about, standard mode and moderator mode. Standard mode is great for quick informal meetings where you can trust everybody to share appropriately. Moderator mode is great for when you have a structured environment like a classroom or a large presentation, and the moderator can control who's sharing content and when. That PIN confirmation is great for security. Like Blake mentioned, you have to enter in that PIN, so you can't be sharing to any random display within your organization. So that's really great, of course. We're keeping that content where it's supposed to be. Using the pause and resume features. So this is a great feature so that you can navigate through if you have any sensitive or irrelevant information on your screen. This ensures that participants are only seeing what's necessary. If you have your online banking open and you're also sharing a presentation, you don't want to flip through to your bank account, so you can pause that. A couple other best practices, but this is a new system. It's a little bit different than Zoom. When everybody first went remote and we were using new technology, it can be a little bit confusing. This is a great opportunity to communicate with participants at the start of the session, explain how they can join, how they can participate, what code they need to enter, and any other security measures. You have to enter the PIN or it's moderated, so you can't just join willy-nilly, but you're asking or you're encouraging participants to be involved. So that goes to the next one, is encouraging active participation. If participants are able to share their screens, it fosters that engagement and their interaction, which is great. That's what it's all about. And then last one is share only what's necessary. So if you're able to share the specific window or tab instead of your entire screen or all of your tabs, it keeps the focus on the content and not on everything else that's going on. So let's check and see if we have any more questions before we move on.
I saw one from Leanne Stewart. She asked, what was it? It was, sorry, what happens if we don't subscribe by November? If you enable it and you don't subscribe to Enterprise or Unlimited by November, the feature will just be deactivated on your account. If you decide that it's something that you want to subscribe to, you can contact sales@risevision.com, and one of the account executives will get you upgraded to the correct tier to enable screen sharing on your account permanently.
Okay, before we move on, Blake, this is a good question. I think that goes with the use cases that we were talking about. Mishka's asking, can we talk about moderation when there's a sub or floating teacher in the room? In the situation I presented, classroom management, the teacher is able to move around the classroom, but you also had mentioned one of the benefits of screen sharing is that there's no proprietary hardware, there's no dongles required. So how, in that situation, what would the workflow be to get screen sharing enabled on this sub or floating teachers?
Your floating teachers would just need to be users in the RiseVision account and be accessorized, for lack of a better term, with the screen share moderator privilege. So I've talked to a few schools that are doing floating teachers from room to room. And the way that we're going to work around it is just by adding them to the RiseVision account as screen share moderators. And that'll give them access to the display control to moderate and add the students to the classrooms.
Perfect. Blake, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about the pricing and packaging, and then we'll jump back into questions.
Okay. So obviously, if you're a RiseVision user, you're pretty familiar with our pricing and packaging. And what's great about screen sharing is it's not going to be an additional license fee for your displays. We are including screen sharing with the enterprise level, which also is bundled into the unlimited per school level. So if you're already subscribing to enterprise licenses, or your school or district has unlimited licenses, you're going to be able to use screen sharing at no additional cost. If you're not sure what you have, you can always email help@risevision.com, and Rob or Alex will get back to you really quickly, let you know what level of licensing that you have, and get you over to me or one of the other account executives who can help you upgrade if necessary. Anything else on that?
Let's jump into questions. So if you have a question that we haven't answered, drop it in the chat again, and we'll just start going through these. I think this is a good question. It's relevant to pricing, Blake. So this is from Lisa. She asked this a little while ago, but she says, would we need to pay for another screen onto which we want to use screen share if it's different than the ones we already have?
It really depends on the level of subscription that you're subscribing to. If you're subscribed to Unlimited, let's say you're a school, you're subscribed to Unlimited, you don't have to pay for any extra screens that you add. But let's say you have 7 digital signage displays throughout your office, and you have maybe a display in a conference room that you want to add screen sharing to. That would need to be licensed. You would need to upgrade from 7 to 8 display licenses.
Perfect, Lisa. Hopefully that answers your question. A question from Miles. Do all of these steps, so I think this was back when you were doing your demo, Blake, do all of these steps apply to people and companies that don't need the media player? So in this situation, I think they just have the downloaded app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you're not using Apple TV as your media player. If you have an interactive flat panel smart board that runs Android, you just download the app to it. The process is the same across all media players other than Apple TV.
And this is a good question maybe for Dawood, but Mishka's asking if there's any auditing or logging to see who has connected to a display over time for any investigation of shenanigans.
We don't provide logging yet, but it's something we're looking into as well.
I know we always hear about, oh, my students hacked the display. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. But I wonder how often it really does happen.
And that's why, like we previously stated, to reduce all those risk of shenanigans, we highly encourage using the moderator mode instead.
Yeah, good idea. Blake, what do you think about this situation? Kevin's asking, we have Raspberry Pis primarily as a media player. Do you think that will be a good device for screen sharing?
Yeah, should work just as well as any other lower end devices. The process is the same for Raspberry Pi as it is anything else.
Matt Rogers says, so this will not cast my morning announcements through YouTube. Rats.
Nope, but we have a fix for that coming,
But
Matt. We'll have support reach out to you, Matt.
yes, something exciting is coming your way. But like, why don't you talk a little bit about screen sharing to smart displays? This is a question from William.
Yeah, I've done extensive testing on, I have a clear touch interactive flat panel display behind me. It's not the newest model, but screen sharing works seamlessly. Same as casting through a media player, Rise Vision media player, or the R series, which is also a smart display that runs Android. It's a really seamless way to get both Rise Vision and screen sharing on your smart displays if you have a prosumer level or interactive touch level display. Now, your mileage may vary on some of the system on a chip style consumer devices. Some of them just don't have the power necessary to run full screen video at 4K through a digital signage provider like Rise Vision. But your display is already running Rise Vision, you're not going to have any issue utilizing screen sharing along with your flat panel.
Okay, this is a good question from Leanne. If we open it up to multiple people, so I'm assuming this is in moderator mode, what happens when two or more people try to share their screen?
Good question. I don't know. Dawood, that would be you.
I'll cover both cases. In standard mode, there isn't that possibility. So as soon as one person starts sharing their screen, all other entries will be blocked. Also, the screen sharing code, so the code that appears on the display is changed every single time a new session is started. So the previous one would no longer work. We do that for security reasons, of course. And then for the moderator mode, as a moderator, you have to invite your participant in order for them to have access to share. And only one invitation can be sent at a time. When another invitation is sent, it cancels the first, and then only the second person is allowed to share their screen. So at no point do participants or even any kind of user has the possibility of sharing their screen while another screen is being shared.
All right, thank you, Dawood. Blake, I think this is a good question for you. You might have to reach out to Ian to get some more detail, but actually I have two questions about licensing. First one, can screen sharing license be added for some displays and not others, allowing licensing to be applied to the displays that need the feature? So I think in this case, if they have X number of licenses, they just want to make sure that it's only being used or being used in a smart way and not just blanketed. What do you think in that situation?
Yeah, you can, if you have an account with 20 displays and 20 display licenses, you can segment and just license 10 of those for screen sharing, while the other 10 are just functional digital signage. Or you can license all of them or an even smaller percentage of them. It's totally up to you to manage which ones you enable screen sharing on with that license.
And actually, this came up this week. I saw a conversation. So, if in the case where your display, maybe you have a display in the hallway of your school or your organization that's strictly for digital signage, you probably want to disable screen sharing on that device because otherwise the little code is going to be in the base or in the bottom of the screen. And that is going to be tempting for shenanigans for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that when you create a new display, screen sharing is disabled by default. So that's something that you would have to make a conscious effort to go into your account and enable on any new displays. or any old displays. It's disabled by default across the board.
All right, Blake, another question. I think you might have answered it in a roundabout way, but can licenses be mixed? So if somebody has 20 advanced licenses now and they decide that they need 2 screen sharing devices, can they go 18 advanced and 2 enterprise?
No, it's upgrade to enterprise from advanced for the entire network.
All right. Okay, Blake, I'm going to get you to share your screen again. Brandon was asking, can you show the user permissions as the moderator?
Okay.
So maybe you could walk through that a little bit more.
I'm not totally sure I understand the question, but I can take a shot at it.
Brandon, do you want to just expand on your question?
Let me just enable moderator mode on this display. Then you go to screen share.
Oh, he's saying, how is one designated as the moderator?
Got it. That makes more sense. Same place as before. If you go to your profile icon at the top right and you go to user settings, whoops, wrong one. You go to company users, and then you select the user, you get the screen share moderator role here. By default, I'm already a screen share moderator without having that enabled because I'm a Rise Vision employee, but you can select that screen share moderator role in your user settings once it's enabled on your account.
Good question. Dawood, this might be a question slash, it sounds like a feature request, but is there any integration with Google Workspace for user provisioning? So making new accounts, suspending old accounts. Actually, I think I've seen that twice. Oh yeah, Matt said that as well. Would love to see moderator teacher level access via Google Workspace.
Yeah, so user provisioning over multiple single sign-on providers will be coming, I would say, in the next 12 months. So keep an eye out for that. It is in our roadmap, and it is something we will be working on.
Awesome. Miles, Blake, this might not be 100% related to screen sharing, but more just audio in general. So Miles says, I was told that audio would display from my television. Is that not the case?
Yeah. So in normal digital signage mode, if you have a video or a live stream that includes audio, that is included. It will play through your display's speakers, assuming you have speakers. There's 2 things that you want to make sure of. In the presentation where you set up, let's say, a YouTube video, there's a volume bar that you're going to want to make sure is at least enabled to get audio passing through. And then you want to make sure the volume on your television or your display is also set to the right level.
Okay, perfect. That answered the question. All right, we have a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to go through the chat one more time and make sure we caught all of the questions. If you have any questions right now about screen sharing or digital signage or Rise Vision, you can drop them in now. We still do have some time. Jim is asking, our district is on an unlimited subscription. When will this screen sharing feature be available? Jim, you just need to email Alex or Rob, and they're going to get it enabled for you. So you can email help@risevision.com and they will get screen sharing enabled on your account. Clinton is asking, how does the screen sharing and presentation override feature interact? Ooh, that's a good question.
I believe it's the same as cap alerts, right, Dawood?
Correct. Screen sharing will work as if you're displaying your signage, and then override would take over anything you're screen sharing, or whether it be regular signage, and then cap is the one with the highest priority. So same as override.
All right, hopefully that answers that question. DZ, yes, there will be a recording sent out of this presentation. Hopefully today, if not first thing tomorrow. Okay, I'm just going to go through the chat looking for any questions. If you still have a question, drop it in there. All right, Blake, another question for you about teacher role. So if a person has the teacher role assigned to their account, can they still share their screen if it's enabled, or will they have to receive more authority within Rise Vision?
They'll be able to share in normal sharing mode, but in order to control the display in moderator mode, they will also have to have the screen share moderator role.
And hopefully that answers that question. All right. I think that's everybody. So I just want to drop in here, if you're interested in learning more about screen sharing, if you have any questions, or if you're ready to have it enabled on your account, you can reach out to Rob or Alex, your customer success managers, and they will be able to help you out with that. But if you're ready to go, you want a personalized demo from somebody like Blake, or you just want it turned on, I'm going to drop a page in the chat and you can fill out the form on that page and we will be able to get screen sharing enabled for you. There's been a lot of interest in the chat right now, but it's not really feasible for us to find everybody and connect with them from the chat. So fill out the form on this page and we will get screen sharing enabled, or offer you a demo to see how it works a little bit more in depth if you have any other questions. I think there's another question here. So Blake, so with those settings, I think this is going back to the teacher role question. This is Tim still. So with those settings, they can see the displays that are assigned to them via the teacher role, but they cannot manage any of the other settings within Rise Vision. Is that correct?
So the way the teacher role works is they are assigned a display and the schedules that are attached to that display. They can create, modify presentations, and they can modify the schedules and displays that are assigned to them, but they wouldn't have access to, say, another teacher's displays or a hallway's displays that are not assigned to them. They also wouldn't be able to take any user functionality, so they wouldn't be able to add, remove, or modify any users.
All right, Tim, does that answer your question? Perfect. Yes. All right. I think that's it. Not sure if we have any other questions. Last thing I want to leave you with is you can follow us, or you should be following us on LinkedIn. We share lots of video clips from webinars, lots of tips, tricks on how to get the most out of your digital signage. There's always links to different training sessions. If you're not aware, we do have a free weekly training session every Thursday. And it's with a live person. You can answer any question, or you can ask any questions that you might have. So that's a great resource as well. So I would encourage everybody on this call to join us on LinkedIn as well for more digital signage content. And like I said, if you're ready to get going with screen sharing, fill out that form on the screen sharing page and we will get it enabled on your account or answer any other questions you have. Blake, do you have anything else to add?
No, thanks everybody for joining us. Look forward to working with you in the future.